Yep, got it. Hey, what's up guys, I'm Jinan. And you probably have seen this web shooter. Obviously it's missing some wires and some batteries and stuff. But basically you can see that it requires you to have two parts on your arm. You put the two 9-volt batteries there, and this unit takes the 18 volts from the two 9-volt batteries and charges the capacitors to 200 volts. And that's the electromagnet, the controller, and that's about it. Then more than a year ago, I made this web shooter, which is basically the same, but it's in a much smaller package and it's a bit more compact. So after shrinking these two into this, the next obvious step is to just make it even smaller and more compact. So I made this web shooter. Right away you can see the size difference. It's definitely a lot slimmer and the overall volume is a bit less. The same goes for the batteries, the charging circuit, the controller, the projectile, and the coil itself, because it's a small wrist-mounted grappling coil gun, not a literal web shooter. Anyway, if you look at the coil, you won't see any plastic barrel that the wire is wrapped onto, and the reason for me to do that is to simply get high efficiency, because that way the projectile can stay really close to the electromagnet while having just the right amount of space to move freely. And this part just extends out the first and second layer of the coil. The projectile doesn't have anything soldered. This thing is actually a part of it, and to make the needle to stay in place, I just had to drill a little, insert it, and use some thread and super glue. By the way, making the coils and the projectile's length about the same is a good idea. And this time, I didn't make the charging circuit. I just took that out from the remains of the coil gun that I made 3 years ago. I just had to resolder a new LED, a transistor, and some wires. The single AA battery holders are actually from this battery holder. I just had to cut it out and do some sanding. The thing that stores the web is a bit more refined. Instead of using an ink tube of a pen, I used the motor's shaft because the end is perfectly rounded and it's solid. Also, it's much easier to take off, because with the previous one I have to take this off and this off to reload again. The controller is almost the same as the first one, but again it's a bit more refined because it's a bit more sturdy. So yeah, these are the changes I made. But the capacitors are just as the same as the first one because I took it from there. And when I almost had everything, I just had to do a small test before putting everything together. Okay, so now the capacitors are fully charged. And if I want to show you the LED, it kind of blinks if I just push the charge button. And now it's time for the test. Let's see how it does. So yeah, that went well, but the switch actually spot welded itself. It didn't happen with the first one because the resistance of the coil was a lot higher, and you can just see that just by looking at the coils. So I just had to use a CR thyristor to solve that problem. I know that using something that has 3 pins might seem intimidating at first, but if you go over the datasheet and label some stuff and solder the wires in a way that's easy to understand, it gets easy to use. Okay, so this is the first test with the thyristor. And let's just see how it goes. So I don't have any battery connected to it, and now if I just try it, it shouldn't work. So let's just, yeah, doesn't work. And now I'm just gonna connect the battery. Yeah, that worked. So now the capacitors are discharged, and if I check the switch, it's not spot welded. And here's the circuit if you just want to have a look at it. And these are the 2 places that I covered with tape because I was constantly getting shocked. Ow! 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 Okay, so what can I do with it? Well, I can open wooden cabinets. I can open wooden doors. Oh. Okay. I guess, yeah, it sort of works. Yeah, it doesn't really do much. Okay, so what about the range? Well, obviously the projectile can travel further without any string attached to it, so I'm just gonna say it's more than 25 feet. And with the string attached to it, it's about this much. And as a reference, my height is 5 feet 9 inches with my shoes on. So there you go. The thread limited its distance, so I made some changes so it can still go when it ends. So I guess it's a bit more than that. Okay, so what can you expect for the next version? Well, obviously I can try to make it even smaller. I can try to get the projectile to stay in place. I can try to make the reloading process faster. I can try to make a proper housing. I can try to add some safety features because I don't want to shoot it in my palm. And I can try to get the capacitors charged quickly because it takes a really long time to charge it. Also, I really need to add a charging indicator because the LED takes too long to even light up, and I don't even know if it's working or not without a multimeter. And I'll just try to keep making small upgrades like these, and let's just see where we end up. That's about it, and I'll just see you guys in the next one. Peace.